Hey there, welcome to the next section of our SEO workshop. In this video, we are going to be talking about one of the huge factors to website ranking, and that is load times. So you might remember the days when you still had dial-up internet and you had to make sure no one was on the phone in your house and you had to wait for a website to load for 5 or 10 minutes before you could use it. And it was terrible. And because it was terrible, Google said people don't want to wait for websites to load. We are going to favor websites in the search results that load faster. And the same is true today. So having a fast loading site makes a huge difference in your rankings. I remember when I made some of these changes I'm going to share with you, I moved from page 4 up to page 2 overnight. It was as simple as just changing a few things in my site so that it loaded faster. So let's hop in and look at some of the factors that affect your load times. The first is web hosting. So what is web hosting? Essentially, when you have a website, you have what's called a host. And the host is a big computer somewhere in, America or Australia or Singapore, wherever it is. It's called a server, and it holds all of your website's data. And now you have a customer who comes, and they want to access your site. So basically their computer talks to this computer and says, hey, I want to see this data. And that computer says, okay, here are the images, here's the information, here's the code, blah, 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 blah. Now, basically, the faster your host is, the better your load experience is going to be. It responds faster, it delivers the images faster, it delivers the content better, and so you're going to have better rankings simply because of your hosting. So that is the easiest thing to change if you're not loading very quickly, is your web hosting. Now, who do I recommend for hosting? Hands down, SiteGround. Why? I will tell you why in a second, but essentially if you sign up for SiteGround, they have a big computer that they host your website on, same as GoDaddy or HostGator. The difference with SiteGround is that they've consistently been voted the very top performing web host, both for load times, for security, for features, and for price. So I'm even going to hook you up with a web code if you want to switch over to SiteGround today that will give you, I think, 40% off. Anyways, I will put that in the video so it will show up somewhere below. So that is the simplest thing you can do if you want to switch hosts, say to SiteGround. It's as easy as just hitting this little help button, and you can ask them. They have a live chat where you can get them to migrate everything over for you for free. It's super quick, super simple. I did this back in January, made a big difference. So that's hosting. Okay, the next factor that affects web loading and page speed is your image sizes. So a lot of business owners make the mistake of assuming that they want the highest quality photos possible for people to see. So when they go and they put them on their website, and the files are, 20 megabytes or 10 megabytes or 5 megabytes. It doesn't matter. Those are still huge file sizes. Let me walk you through what you have to do. Let's say you need to get some images for your website. A great spot for that is unsplash.com, where you can download free images and use them on your website without having to pay any licensing, any royalties. You just download it, upload, you're done. Okay, so let's say that I'm selling shoes and I like this photo of a pair of shoes. I'm going to download that, and then I'm going to open it up. Let's take a look here. So the original file, if I go over to Finder and look at the size, is 4.2 megabytes. That's absolutely huge. And I'll show you how to fix that in a second. I've opened it in Preview, which is a free application that comes on your Mac if you have one. And then we go up to Tools, Adjust Size. We can see that the width of this image is 3,800 pixels. The height is 5,600. Now, on web, in general, you do not need to have an image with a width of more than 1,600 pixels. And even that, for some people, will be overdoing it. So what we want to do is make sure we resize our images appropriately for the web. So I'm going to take this image, resize it like that, and you'll see that it's gone down by 42%, or to 42% of the original size. So it's only 680 kilobytes, where before it was, 8 times as large at 4.2 megabytes. So we're going to hit OK. You can see it's now smaller, but even if I zoom in, it still looks like a great photo. So then I would upload it to my website from there after resizing it. So that's how you can do it for free on a Mac. Another tool that you can use is just put in here Image Resizer. We can go to simpleimageresizer.com. And you might actually have a free tool on Windows. I haven't used Windows recently, so I can't tell you for sure, but here's one right on the internet. Go ahead, open, we're going to select it. And then we can put in our dimensions here, and we just want to have a width of 1,600. We'd hit resize, and it would resize it for us. Okay? Now, one last step you can take if you want to make sure your images are as small as possible is to go to imagecompressor.com. This is a free tool online you can go to, and we're going to go to Upload Files. We're going to find our image. Here we go. and then we're going to let it just do its thing. It's going to compress that image, which is basically going to make it smaller without reducing the quality in much of a visible way. So you can see that when we zoom way in here, this one, if you're looking very closely, has slightly less detail. But when we zoom out to the size you normally see it on your website, well, that's not the zoom, that is the quality. You can adjust your quality from there if you decide you want it to be slightly higher or lower quality. But when we zoom out, you won't even notice the difference. And we've saved 21% of our file size. So that's all going to help, especially when you accumulate this over 10 images or over 100 images, whatever it is on your entire website, it's going to make a large difference. So make sure you're doing that. As you're uploading your images, you want to aim for a width of no more than 1600 pixels. And then you can compress those images before uploading them to your site. If you're using something like WordPress that you can actually install plugins, so we're going to let's go to Signature Edits. You can actually install a plugin here. Go into Install Plugins, Add New. And we're just going to type in Smush It. Now this plugin will actually automatically compress your images on the way in. And it can even compress images that are already inside of your site. So just look up tutorials for that, but I would just hit Install Now and add it. I don't need to because I have a different plugin happening, I think, on here. My theme just takes care of it by itself, and I make sure to export my images small to begin with. So that's something that you can do. Image size will make a huge difference in the speed of your pages loading. And now the pages that you want to prioritize on your website are these ones up in the menu. You don't need to necessarily worry about going through all your old posts and optimizing them, although if they're getting lots of traffic or you're featuring them on the homepage, you should. But the main images you want to make sure are as small as possible is everything on your homepage and everything on these pages right here. You want these pages to also load very, very quickly. So you can see that one could maybe do with some work because it took a while to load, or it might just be my server. And I've gone through and all of these images are optimized, and you'll notice that on my pages, I have one image on each page. And that is strategic because I want the page to be as small a file size as possible to load as quickly as possible. With the exception of my homepage, and even my homepage, I have every single featured image for my posts are optimized, so I've resized them. They're only this large. Rather than being full-size images, they're only 300 by 300 pixels. And then this image here, I've even compressed it. It's smaller than it would be, and I've repeated it over here just so that I didn't have to make it a larger file. So that's what you can do to work on your load speed with your images. Let's hop over to our next factor here, which is caking. What is caking? It is not baking in any way, shape, or form, although I wish it were. That would be way more fun. Caking is essentially what a website program does to make your code as small as possible. So you don't have to concern yourself too much with the technicalities of all this, but here's the code for my website for the homepage to load. Now, a caking plugin will go through and say, okay, this little section we can actually shorten by kind of making this abbreviation here. And the length of this code determines how fast, in a large way, that your website is loading. So let me show you an example. Go back to my Signature Edits blog. I have what do I have for caking? I think it's W3 Fastest Cake, but let me show you exactly what I'm using. I've tested all of the different caking plugins, and they're all pretty good. Some work better with certain themes than others. If you're using something like WordPress or Wix, you're going to have to just YouTube caking plugins for WordPress or Wix. I don't think that they actually support that. I'm pretty sure that WordPress is the only one. However, Squarespace handles it behind the scenes, and so does Wix. So you might not have to concern yourself with that if you're using one of those platforms. But let's go through here and just show you which caking plugin I'm using right now, which is WP Fastest Cake. And I've actually even bought the paid version, but this plugin is completely free to start, and you don't need to buy the paid version unless you want to do specific things. And then there's also W3 Total Cake. Actually, let's just type in here. You can go to Plugins, Add New. We're going to search for caking. And I've tested a lot of these. I found that WP Fastest is the best across the board for my websites. However, WP Super Cake works better for certain themes, as does W3 Total Cake. So it's really up to you. You can just test and see. Let me show you kind of what it's doing behind the scenes. So I'm going to go to my install plugins. And then we'll just Fastest Cake. Where are you? There we go. I'm going to test my page load speed by going to Pingdom Tools. And we're just going to type in here signatureedits.com. And Tools.pingdom.com will actually tell you how large your website is and show you what areas of your site you can work on, whether it's the image sizes, whether it's the code. It will give you a score, which is super, super helpful to know what you need to work on. Another one that you can do the same thing is Google PageSpeed Insights. So just type PageSpeed Insights into a Google search and this will come up. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to edit my, put in my URL here. And it will analyze and tell me what I can work on in the eyes of Google, which is super important because probably Google's opinion of my site matters more than Pingdom Tools. So once those tests have finished, Pingdom will actually pull up a list of suggestions and an overall rating for the website. So this particular website is not doing great. I still have work to do when it comes to signature edits. It's only 69 out of 100 for the performance grade, and the page size is 3.4 megabytes, which is quite large. I need to make sure I go back and minimize the size of my images, make it as efficient as possible so I can get this load time even faster. Now, in general, I'm under 2 seconds in terms of load time. If I could get that under a second, I would be super, super happy. 2 seconds is good. Under a second is great. Anything longer than that and you're going to see significant decreases in your ranking and your SEO simply because your page is not loading fast enough. So you need to work on that. And that's what I'm going to show you with this caking plugin, the difference that it makes in a second here. So if we continue down our test, you can see different suggestions that they have for us with some information on what we need to do. And then we can look at the size of content over, this whole homepage was 3.4 megabytes. Well, if we scroll down here, you can see that 1.7 megabytes was just the images. So again, that's why it's so important to resize our images efficiently and make our website, particularly our homepage, as fast loading and as minimal as possible. This is going to make sure that we just rank at the very top performing level. Okay, now if we jump over to PageSpeed Insights, it's going to do something similar. You can preview both desktop and mobile, your score for that. On desktop, I'm doing all right with a score of 80. If we scroll down here, it will give us just different information on how long things take to load, and then Google suggestions for where I could improve what I'm doing. Okay, now let me show you with and without caking. So these are the results with caking, which actually is pronounced caching, but caking just sounds so much more delicious. I'm going to scroll down here and we're going to go to plugins, install plugins, and we're just going to turn off the caking plugin and run this test again. So I will go over here. We're just going to deactivate this plugin. Okay, I'm going to make sure that I reload the website just to make sure that that change is affected. And then we're going to go over to tools.pingdom again. And I'm going to enter in the website all over again and test it a second time. Now I need to make sure it's testing from the same spot, North America, San Francisco. Go down here, we'll put in signatureedits.com, and we'll run that test again. Now PageSpeed Insights, I can do the same thing, so we'll just go Google, PageSpeed Insights, there you go. We'll let that do its thing. And now that that test is done, we can scroll down here and see that our performance is mostly the same, our page size is mostly the same, but our load time has actually gone from 1.9 seconds all the way up to 2.3 seconds. Now that is significant. It might not sound significant to you on the surface, but that will make a big difference in your rankings. Sometimes you'll actually find that your caking plugin can save you 2, 3, 4, even 5 seconds of load time. It's that big of a deal. If we hop over to our Page Insights tool, you can see that we went from a solid 80 in the orange to 42 very much in the red, and we had a load time of 3.3 seconds, whereas before it was 2.2 seconds. So that's what the caching plugin does. You want to make sure that if you're using WordPress or if that whatever host you're using supports caking, whatever you want to call it, you want to make sure that you have that enabled, okay? So you can plug your website into each of these and just see how you're doing. Again, I'll just show you taylorphotography.com. We'll run that test. You can see that my website is doing a lot better here. And see this gray box? It's not showing that top image here. And that's good. That means that it's deferring loading until after the visitors already landed on the website, which speeds up the load time immensely. Great, so that is caking and how it works. You want to just add that plugin to your site or look it up if you're using Wix or Squarespace, what you can do for those specifics. And lastly, we want to use a content delivery network, a CDN, with our images and our resources from the website if possible. But before I show you how to set one up, let me tell you what a content delivery network is and why you want one. So here is an example of a content delivery network. Now don't get too concerned about this. I'm going to explain it step by step in an easy way. Let's say that you are this user here in South America. and you want to access a website that is hosted. So remember, our host might be located in America or in Asia or in Australia. It all depends. Australia's over there. So let's say that you are accessing the site that is normally in Australia, okay? So normally, if you didn't have a CDN, you would have to go and wait for all the information to come all the way from Australia back to you in Chile or wherever you are. Now, a content delivery network actually creates multiple copies of your website in different places around the world. So now if you're in Chile and you want to access your particular website, you type it in, and instead of it going all the way to Australia, don't you love my sound effects? It goes up to the nearest server, which in this case is somewhere in Florida or Texas or somewhere around there. And so the round trip is way faster to get the information that you need because it's only this distance instead of going all the way over here. So that's what a content delivery network is. It's a satellite version of your website hosted in different places around the world so that when people access your website, it's faster. So if someone from Peru wants to get to your website, it goes here. If someone from Australia wants to get to your website, it accesses that information from here, etc., etc., etc. So that's a CDN. Let me show you how to set one up. What's really cool, and one of the reasons I recommend SiteGround so much, is it comes with a CDN that you can use for free. And it's super easy to set up. All you have to do is just a couple of clicks. So I'm going to log in here to SiteGround. And now that I'm logged in, just go to My Accounts, and then I'm going to launch cPanel here. Log in from there. I just go down to where it says Site Improvement Tools. I click on Cloudflare. And it's going to be as simple as just checking the box. I want to activate my free Cloudflare on my website. So I'm going to activate. Wait for it to load. And just like that, within about 10-15 seconds, you will have your very own Cloudflare set up. And just like that, your CDN has been activated and you are one step closer to dominating in local search. So that is it for our load times workshop. You have 4 things that you need to work on, okay? The first is getting a great host. I would recommend switching to SiteGround if possible. It's going to save you money in the long term and you're going to load way faster as a result and rank better. And for like $4 a month starting, it certainly is worth the money. The next thing that you're going to want to work on is your image sizes. So when you're exporting images to your website, only make them as wide as you need them to be. No larger than that. So I would recommend at a max 1200 pixels for your images. Unless they are a full page image on your homepage, in which case you're going to want to export it maybe a little larger. 1920 would be fine for your width. And then make sure you put them through an image compressor, okay? After you have done that and installed a compressor plugin, if you're using WordPress, you're going to work on your caking by installing something like W3 Total Cake or WordPress Fastest Cake. And then after that, you are going to work on your CDN by activating a content delivery network. Now, this is optional. I ranked my website and was on #1 well before I applied this. However, who knows? It might have happened a lot faster had I taken all of these steps instead of just some of them. Okay, so that is it for our web speed tutorial. I will see you in the next video where we tackle our next project.